If there's any game that Nintendo Switch owners and prospective Nintendo Switch owners want most, the easy answer would have to be Pokemon Switch, myself included. And is that really a surprise? People have been pleading with Nintendo and Game Freak to bring this long-time dream to life. Them finally coming through with that wish fulfillment is a pretty big deal. But I'd argue Bayonetta is bigger. Yeah, I know, shut up. Bear with me for a second. Here's why. For the people that don't understand the concept of the setup, let me spell this out for you a little earlier than I typically would. This video isn't to say that Bayonetta 3 will outsell Pokemon on Switch. It's not to say it'll necessarily review better than Pokemon Switch, although let's be real. Just look at those Metacritic scores. Editor Nate, show these people the Metacritic score of the last few Pokemon games. Okay. Now, Bayonetta. Now, a funny cat gif. Okay, I'm done. Anyway, that isn't what I'm getting at when I say Bayonetta will be a quote bigger deal. What I am getting at is the potential that Nintendo has to have a literal groundbreaking success with Bayonetta 3. Not in sheer sales numbers, not immediately at least, but in future opportunities for that game's franchise and other games like it. The thing about Pokemon is it's a known quantity. Nintendo has had the Pokemon audience before, and that audience has had no noticeable effect on the sales of other games outside of those known quantities. Yes, Pokemon will grow Switch by millions of new users, but those users likely won't buy into a lot of the games that will come to the platform. If they didn't bite for Zelda or Mario, chances are they'll come for the Pokemon, stay for the Pokemon, and little else. Of course, that's not a universal truth, but if you look at the best-selling Pokemon games and compare how sales change for software overall for the platforms they're available on, you'll notice Pokemon doesn't really have an effect on the sales of other games, or vice versa really, like you'd expect from a system seller of its caliber at least. Pokemon fans will buy Pokemon and the system it runs on, that's pretty much all you're guaranteed though. Overall game sales may vary. Up until very recently, Nintendo has been hesitant to allow games that are tailored to more mature audiences. Hey, Editor Nate, editing a small child playing Call of Duty. Don't tell nobody I told you. Edit this out. Bayonetta is the trifecta of mature content. Obscene violence, excessive sexuality, and strong language.
I'd off the fucking wing bastards all damn day. Oh, hey.
This franchise is a hard M. My proposal is that with Bayonetta, Nintendo will be attracting a new fan base that's into different kinds of games from what Nintendo is used to making, which will ultimately lead to more games in the Bayonetta franchise being made, and it'll usher in developers that want to make similar games on Switch. Look at literally any successful trend on a platform. Once one company hits it big with a game type, every company swoops in to gobble up the scraps. Wii Sports was a major success, so we got a bunch of motion sports and weird carnival attraction games. Back in the olden days, Pokemon was successful, so we got a bunch of Pokemon wannabes. Bayonetta's success on Switch will lead to more risque titles from devs wanting to capitalize on that new audience. The fact that Nintendo wanted this game at all says a lot, even if you know nothing of how the game came to be in the first place. The nitty-gritty details say a hell of a lot more about Nintendo's dedication to this franchise and ultimately about their willingness to allow games like it to thrive on their platform. Allow me to give you a summary of the franchise's development and how Nintendo got involved up until now. This will hopefully help you to understand why I believe Nintendo is willing to do everything in its power to make this franchise a success. Also, why that's weird or honestly stupid if that investment is solely for that isolated success. According to the franchise's head honcho, Hideki Kamiya, aka that dude that probably blocked you on Twitter, Bayonetta would have never lived on past its initial release if not for Nintendo. According to Kamiya, as a studio, Platinum Games doesn't prioritize owning IP. As such, the future of the games they work on is reliant on the rights holders' funding and/or cooperation. Bayonetta in particular required both from two companies. From day one, Bayonetta was wholly owned by Sega, who initially greenlit and funded the original Bayonetta game for Xbox 360 to later in development decide on a PlayStation 3 port, likely because of Xbox 360's awful performance in the Japanese market, and they recently made a PC port via Steam. Because of this, they own the rights to the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and eventual Steam versions exclusively. Later, Sega began funding the production of a Bayonetta sequel for, and I quote, multiple platforms, unquote. Unfortunately for non-Wii U owners, aka most of the humans on the planet, they ended production on the game due to, and again, I quote, circumstances at Sega, unquote. As we all know, Nintendo ultimately stepped in to see to it that Bayonetta 2 received the funds necessary to reach completion and see the light of day. Obviously, this led to the other versions of the game being cancelled, and the work that went into the game leading up to that point folding into the Wii U version. This also means that Nintendo and Sega co-own the rights to Bayonetta, or at least the Wii U and Switch versions of Bayo 1 and the whole of Bayo 2 and now 3. Bayonetta on Wii U ultimately didn't sell that much, somewhere around 750,000 units, which, to be fair, is pretty impressive when you take into account the meager Wii U sales. 750,000 units is in the ballpark of 10%-ish of the install base, which is decent. Despite that, it surely doesn't come off as a big enough success to warrant Nintendo deviating this far from their reputation and investing time and money into a franchise like this again, even after they saw that it didn't move the needle much for Wii U. Keep in mind that Bayonetta's original release didn't sell too great either, not to mention the fact that whatever success they could have seen or potentially will see with another sequel will have to be shared with Sega. All of this combined says to me that Nintendo wants to do everything in their power to ensure that Bayonetta 3 is a success, and it wants to do so for more than just that game's sake. To return to Pokemon for the sake of the comparison, clearly the game will be more of a priority for them. It's already proven to be a success, but I think of it this way, and people with siblings will understand this analogy, so if you don't get it, ask one of them to explain it in the comments, unless they don't understand the whole sports ball thing, in which case Google is your friend. Anyway, baby's first steps is a way more impressive feat to a parent than their older child getting yet another first place prize in their track meet. Pokemon is that child. At this point, it's normal for it to wildly succeed. Because of its consistent successful nature with little deviations in the upward direction, it's unlikely it'll attract many new players, but if Bayonetta 3 succeeds, that is another story entirely. That will open new doors. Pokemon is mostly old news. Of course, as I've said, Bayonetta has by no means proven that it will demand a high sell-through rate. Not if we're going solely off of the quantifiable measures, at least. Except the franchise's critical reception, which when taken into account alongside the aforementioned low sales of Wii U, I think it's fair to say the franchise will have a fair amount of latent hype, or at the very least curiosity, amongst the new Switch owners that skipped out on Wii U. Franchises becoming massive successes through the slow burn of games prior being loved by relatively small yet passionate fan bases is nothing new. The most recent example would have to be the Fallout series. Up until 4, the games have been modest successes, but the hype cycle of all of that and the Fallout 4 confirmed meme hype helped propel that game to massive success of significantly more than 10 million units in the first week. That was unthinkable for Fallout 3 or even New Vegas, but the positive reception of those games led to people gaining interest in time for the next release. This, I feel, is a trend that Bayonetta is primed to take full advantage of. Pokemon, on the other hand, kind of already blew a similar chance at taking advantage of latent hype with Pokemon Go. Nothing short of a grand, beautifully rendered Gen 1+2 remake on Switch would generate anywhere close to that amount of hype. Anything short of that will go in most new and lapsed ears alike and out the other. And don't take that as me saying Pokemon isn't important in its own right. That isn't my aim. In fact, I believe the exact opposite of that. I still hold to my claim that Pokemon for Nintendo Switch will be the best selling Switch game within a year of its release. But sales alone can't equal to influence, or more accurately, new influence. Developers know by now they can't necessarily benefit or replicate the success of Pokemon. They tried and most of them failed. They haven't, however, taken advantage of a trend like Bayonetta's potential success and its infancy for a new platform. Mature games on a popular Nintendo platform is new territory. We've seen very little high-profile games like it, and the amount with Nintendo's direct involvement has been nearly non-existent. This is them changing. It will have a trickle-down effect. I am very sure about that. So if nothing else, expect something along the lines of a Devil May Cry announcement within a few years of Bayo 3's release. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Will Bayonetta 3 fall flat on its face? Will it benefit from all of the latent hype and be one of the biggest games of the year, influencing developers' next steps forward? Somewhere in between? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like this video, be sure to share and, well, like this video, and most importantly, subscribe. Wait, I lied. There's something more important. After you subscribe, click the bell so you're notified when videos like this go out every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. New podcasts every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Or if long form content ain't your thing, but you'd still like us unscripted, new breakouts every Wednesday, same time, same place. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.